I'm Nicole.
And I'm Ben.
And we're linguists. And today we're going to tell you about some things you might not have known about how language lives. When it comes to the casual and playful language we call slang, words can get popular really quickly among certain groups and can disappear just as quickly. Slang is often a kind of in-group marker, so if some slang term gets too popular too quickly outside of that in-group, that can spell the end of its usefulness.
So with youth slang, for instance, if the olds start using it, then, it's no longer youth slang.
Let's take a look at how slang can bubble up, disappear, and sometimes even come back.
Nicole, I have a pop quiz for you. Let's imagine that you could time travel and you could go back to the year 1699. And let's say you could go to the streets of London and hear people talking. Let's say you also wanted to insult someone's intelligence. Which of these words could you not use as an insult at the time? Booberkin, clodpate, dull pickle, nigmanog, or jobberknoll?
If I'm thinking about the etymology, then nigmanog, there's nog, which might be noggin, like brain. Maybe the one that's not is jabberknoll?
Well, I'm sorry, this is actually a trick question. All 5 of these wacky words could be used at the time in 1699 to refer to a dim-witted person, a blockhead, a numbskull. And we know this because in that year of 1699, there was a dictionary published. And it's one of the first ever slang dictionaries for English. This was a dictionary of cant, which is the special secret language used by thieves and pickpockets and other low-life characters. Maybe they were making fun of each other, maybe they were making fun of the marks, whose pocket they were gonna pick.
Maybe we should revive some of those words. I'd love to call somebody a dull pickle or a jobberknoll.
I bet those thieves in London weren't too happy that somebody came along and made a dictionary with all of their secret language in it.
Yeah, because then they had to come up with a whole new set of words for insulting people.
Right. So from the earliest recorded slang in English, one thing we see is that these words can have a really short shelf life just from too many people knowing about it.
The whole process of slang becoming popular and then immediately passé gets accelerated when you can spread new language around really quickly. So if you're on social media, you might see a lot of slangy flashes in the pan.
You remember back in, let's say, late 2011, early 2012, do you remember YOLO?
Oh yeah, that acronym for You Only Live Once, which I think we have Drake to thank for that in his song, The Motto.
You only live once, that's the motto, YOLO.
I wrote something about YOLO in the summer of 2012, and I remember it was already getting played out. And that was just, months after the song came out. But then I really knew that it was over for YOLO when I heard that Katie Couric on her new talk show was doing a segment called What's Your YOLO, where you were supposed to come on and talk about things you want to do before you die.
My YOLO would really surprise you.
Yeah, that was an actual clip from the segment. So when that happens, you know that YOLO is over. That was really the death knell for it.
Katie Couric on her talk show is not exactly the epitome of cool, but YOLO did have a good run before it became way too cringe. Now that process can happen even faster. Let's look at cheugy.
Do we have to?
It's a good case study of how slang gets played out these days. Cheugy kind of came out of nowhere. A young woman named Gabby Rassin claims that she invented it in 2013, but we don't see it in Urban Dictionary until 2018. People still didn't really notice it until an April 2021 piece by Taylor Lorenz in the New York Times, where she writes all about cheugy.
Talk about overexposure. A piece in the New York Times, I think that could really kill a new slang term.
And that's pretty much what happened. Lorenz's piece ushered in the cheugification of cheugy itself. Cheugy was a way for Gen Zers to talk about how millennials were off trend, but once millennials like Taylor Lorenz herself were using it, then it was already cheugy itself.
The word cheugy is now itself actually cheugy. Got it.
A couple of years after the heyday of YOLO came On Fleek.
Yeah, on fleek, that's an interesting one because much like cheugy, we actually know who came up with it. I mean, usually with new slang terms, we can't really pin down who coined it, but in this case, we can say that.
Yeah, a 17-year-old from Chicago named Kayla Newman, using the handle Peaches Monroe, posted a video of herself on Vine in June 2014.
Abraz on fleek,
R.I.P. Vine. I loved those short little videos. They were awesome.
In The Vine, Kayla described her eyebrows as on fleek before going out to a party, and basically meaning that they were perfectly done or flawless. Kayla's perfect eyebrows made such an impression that soon celebrities like Ariana Grande were posting their own on fleek vines. Even Kim Kardashian got in on the action, and eventually it made its way to brands like IHOP started using on fleek.
Brands, why do they have to ruin everything?
Yeah, and it's not the first or last time that a young Black woman came up with a linguistic innovation that everybody else latched on to.
There are cases where a slang term can just keep going and have this same kind of playful and irreverent air to it. Think about booze.
Sometimes I do.
Well, the word booze goes back to 16th century or so, and we find it in glossaries of criminal jargon. There's a book from the 1530s that actually defines it as alcohol or drink, and it could also be a verb meaning to drink. And it came from this older Dutch word, boizen, meaning to drink to excess. So here we are 5 centuries later, and we're still using that word booze in pretty much the same way.
Another pretty sturdy slang word is cool, and that one's been hanging on for almost a century.
Yeah, so the word cool has lots of different meanings, not just about temperature. So you could call a person cool, calm, and collected, for instance. Starting in the 30s and especially the 40s, cool developed this new sense, and that meant first rate, excellent.
Yeah, I think of cool as a jazzy word, like the Miles Davis album Birth of the Cool.
Not surprisingly, jazz musicians have played a big role in the popularization of the word cool. Lester Young, Prez Young. In the early 1940s, he loved using that word cool. His fellow musicians just picked up on that. We start seeing it in print in 1948, actually. The New Yorker.
And then, of course, the teeny boppers got to it in the 1950s.
Right. Cool starts showing up on lists of teen slang in 1952. And then before you know it, it's in songs and movies and all sorts of things.
Jeepers! Is he cool? Really cool?
Was there backlash against cool after that?
Yeah, there was some backlash. The word cool wasn't so cool in the 60s. You could call things far out and groovy and that sort of thing. Cool kind of recedes a little bit, but then it comes right back in the 1970s. And it actually goes along with the whole kind of 50s nostalgia. You think about Happy Days and Grease and that sort of thing. Since then, though, cool has stayed pretty cool. There's a linguist named Donna Jo Napoli who says it's held on because of its underspecified nature. That means it can adapt to lots of different contexts.
Yeah, and adaptability is key for words to survive. It doesn't seem like cool is cooling off anytime soon, but this is another interesting point about who's licensed to use which slang words. The nuances of meaning in what they say about the speaker are also always evolving.
And we've seen just from the words that we've talked about, whether it's the dull pickles of 1699 or slang terms that spread on social media in the 21st century, who's using these words, when it's considered acceptable or cool to use these words, depends on a lot of different social factors. And whether these words stay in the language or not, it just depends on what's cool and what's not.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot of words old and new. We hope that you've learned something too. And
We've got lots more words to talk about, so thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.